My father was a sailor. My siblings and I all were taken on weekend sailing trips. I myself was a reluctant sailor, but I do remember a few of the aphorisms or the sayings that my father had. One was, "Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning." And when looking over the gospel today, because Jesus is talking about how his disciples can figure out what's going on with the weather, I came across a quote from Vincent van Gogh, which I thought was interesting because many of the apostles were fishermen. Van Gogh said, "The fishermen know that the sea is dangerous and the storm terrible, but they have never found these dangers sufficient reasoning for remaining ashore." In today's gospel, Jesus was addressing people to whom weather forecasts were very important, fishermen and farmers. He adapted their knowledge of the weather to the spiritual signs of the times. And he rebuked the Pharisees and called them hypocrites because they didn't accept Jesus. They weren't able to understand the weather forecast of their own soul, it seems. And so Jesus talks to the Pharisees about their hypocrisy because they refuse to see God's key moment in salvation history as present in Jesus himself. They fail to see the kingdom as it's placed right in front of them. Again, Jesus' listeners could read the signs of the weather. They knew to look up into the sky and whether to set out to sea or not, or whether to plant crops or not. But they often didn't apply this same ingenuity, this same creativity, these same gifts to read the abundant signs about the Messiah himself, who was right in front of them and speaking with them face to face. So despite the signs, the miracles, the baptisms, the healings, the exorcisms, all the great things that Jesus was doing to help people, many which had been predicted by the prophets, they still didn't recognize that he was God, that he was the Son of God among them. I think Jesus gets a little frustrated with them. Of course he does. He calls them hypocrites because they're refusing to acknowledge not only that he is sent by God, but that he is a gift for their own salvation. And I think he's frustrated because he wants them and he wants us to be saved. He wants them and he wants us to be with him in heaven. That's his deepest desire, is that we will someday be with him in heaven. That's his love for us. That's what he wants us to be able to interpret. And one of the great things about our faith is that our faith teaches us that by virtue of our own being created by God in his image and likeness, we have the tools to interpret the weather forecast and to understand Jesus as the sole person in our life who places us in our own future. Jesus has implanted himself in us through creation by the Father. And it's our ability to recognize him that is in fact written into our hearts, into all rational creatures by the Creator. And so we often don't have this confidence, or we lose track of this confidence that we can do this. We can be the weather persons of our own soul. Jesus has given us that by our own creation. God created us in love, and there's that inner pull that always attracts us to the good and attracts us to God in love. He who is love has created us, and so we can, if we open our hearts and have faith, we can always interpret and intuit how to get back to God, how to understand God's love more fully for us. Through that faith, which we love so much, through the revelation of that faith in the sacraments, we have faith in God's love for us.